Hey people, it's ScionVise, and it's time for Breaking the Backlog for September 2021. We're almost in the home stretch now, just 3 more months to go, and with this month, we're just shy of hitting the 50 game mark, which is pretty good if I do say so myself. Got a few pretty big titles crossed off my list this time, so let's go. First this month was Uncharted Lost Legacy. I'm overall kind of mixed on the Uncharted games. I love Uncharted 2 and 4. I thought 1 was kind of alright and 3 was kind of not alright. But considering I loved 4, you'd think I would just jump right into Lost Legacy, right? Well, not really. It's always been like just 1 month away, you know? But now that I have finally played it, I'm really glad I did. It's a shorter, more open version of Uncharted 4, think Alan Wake's American Wasteland from earlier this year. The open structure here didn't hurt the game, but I've always felt that these sorts of spectacle platformers are always at their best in a more linear format. Just like in Uncharted 4, when you're just jumping around, climbing on enormous ancient structures that no one has found for some reason despite being completely out in the open, it's fantastic. I've always loved the Indiana Jones style acrobatics that these games are full of, and it's just as good here. On the other hand, combat is something I've always felt is best skipped in the Uncharted games, as well as Last of Us. Naughty Dog just can't make gunplay that feels any good to me, so I spent most of the combat encounters being as sneaky as possible, not only because it isn't as fun, but because as soon as you're spotted, the bad guys call up reinforcements, which makes everything take so much longer as well. I've even jumped off a cliff because dying and reloading is more fun than the shooting. As for the story here, it's fine. It's Uncharted, so there's ancient relics to find, puzzles to solve, and bad dudes trying to take it all for themselves. The only new ground it breaks in the series is having the protagonists be Chloe and Nadine. Nathan is nowhere to be found. Chloe works as a perfect stand-in for Nate because functionally they're the same character. She's smart, always has a witty comeback for any statement, is overflowing with confidence, and doesn't understand the concept of things that could kill her. Nadine, on the other hand, is just kind of a wet blanket. I don't mind her in the antagonist role, she works well there, but pair her up with Chloe, and aside from the occasional quote-unquote girl banter, she's just way too much of the straight actor to make a good impression in comparison. All in all though, I thought Uncharted Lost Legacy was great, and I'll definitely play it again, which is something I'll do more than Uncharted 4, because it's like a quarter of the length. Definitely check it out if you've got a PS4. Speaking of things to check out if you've got a PS4, oh my god, go play God of War. I can't believe I've waited so long to play this game. To say it's incredible is to do it a great injustice. You know how I said that Hellblade was the best game I played this year? Well, God of War is basically just better in almost every way. The only point I can 100% give to Hellblade is the audio engineering due to its binaural audio. While the combat has a lot of the same flaws, you can still get owned by enemies you can't see, and enemy movement can be difficult to deal with. Everything else is just so well designed. The Leviathan axe has such a cool moveset with so many abilities and powers that even with roughly half the action you'd be seeing compared to other God of War games, I still felt like Kratos was able to hold his own. Yeah, it's still frustrating to get beamed on the back of the head with no useful warning, but it's just so satisfying overall that it really didn't sour anything for me. One thing that got a lot of criticism when it came out was the bosses, and I really don't get it. Yeah, some of the boss fights are reused, but there's plenty of unique bosses here that are just as impressive as anything in earlier games, if not more so. Oh, and the world and narrative here are incredible. It uses Norse mythology so well for the most part, and it actually manages to tie Kratos in with it in an interesting way. All the performances here are amazing too, especially Mimir, who acts like a guide for Kratos and Atreus. And Jormungandr's voice is something you just need to hear. It's amazing. So yeah, God of War is easily the best game I've played for Breaking the Backlog, and it's a very clear contender for the best game this year, period. If you're sleeping on this game, stop and go play it. It truly is incredible. Third in September was The Bridge. This is a 2D puzzle game heavily inspired by games like Bastion and Echochrome. It's a pretty simple concept. You have to guide the professor to the end of each stage by rotating it. There's some other wrinkles added in as well, like hazards that can kill you, ledges to fall off, and keys to lose. Thankfully, if you do mess up, you can simply rewind time as far back as you want. Honestly, I'm not really sure what to say about this game. I love puzzle games, but this one never really gave me the same eureka moments when I solve anything. It's not that some of the puzzles aren't difficult either, it's just that the solutions are often so counterintuitive that there's no grand realization to be had. And it's really, really slow. I know that it heavily relies on physics, and speeding things up would break a lot of the game, but that doesn't really make the experience any more entertaining. And the load times are abysmal. I've got a pretty good computer, let's go with that, and every single level here took upwards of 15 seconds to load. For a game like this on my PC, that's pretty much inexcusable. That being said, the art is pretty good, being inspired by MC Escher, and some of the mechanics here are interesting, so if you can find it for really cheap or free, I'd say give it a shot. It's a really short game too, like 3 hours at most, so it's not a big commitment either way. And finally in September was YookaLaylee and the Impossible Lair. So Playtonic kinda whiffed with their first game, but before Banjo, Rareware did Donkey Kong Country, so their next game basically being a DKC game had me a bit more interested. And man, they really pulled it off here. Impossible Lair is, of course, a 2D platformer in the style of Donkey Kong Country, and it's really good. Not only does it play great, feeling right at home with basically the same moveset you'd expect from DK, but Playtonic really went all out with the level design and structure. In this game, the final level is accessible right from the start. You can start the game and go straight for the credits if you want. Now, this level is incredibly long and difficult, so you're not going to make it on your first attempt. That's where the regular levels come in. By completing each regular level, you'll free a battalion member, which will give you an extra hit in the Impossible Lair. This is such a good idea. This means you can skip levels if you want, which is amazing because I love when games give you a choice like this. That being said, I'd still recommend going through each level because they're just all so well done. One of this game's gimmicks is that each stage has 2 variants, which on its own isn't that incredible, but it's done in such a clever way. You unlock each variant by doing something in the overworld. This can be as simple as turning on a machine to fill a stage with enemies, or it could be more interesting, like getting an NPC to fish inside a stage, taking out huge portions of it, and completely changing how that stage looks and plays. One of my favorite things was finding out how each stage remix was going to work. Speaking of the overworld, there's lots of secrets and hidden stuff to find too, as well as the YookaLaylee cast hanging around. It's fun to just go around the world here, which is not common in these types of games. So yeah, this game is great, and if anyone is itching for some more Donkey Kong Country, I highly recommend it. And that was Breaking the Backlog for September 2021. Another pretty small month all things considered, but I got a few big games done, so that's good. Anyways, here's the rankings for this month, and here's how things are looking for the year in total. I think number 1 and 2 are pretty much locked in, but we'll have to see. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all later.